So I got a question. How do I get Google Forms to grade an assignment for me? So this will be a little bit longer video. First, you need to go to Google Forms. You can get there through your email, through your Drive. You can type forms.google.com into your Omnibox, or you can go to Google and just search for Google Forms. When you get to the landing page, this is the landing page. You can start with a blank quiz, and then your quiz features are already turned on. However, I'm going to start with a blank form to show you how to turn those features on if you ever need to shut them off and turn them on. So here's a blank Google form, and let's start over here at the settings so you can understand this. Before I send out any Google form, I always check my settings. So do you want to collect email addresses? I always have that turned on in case they forget to put their name. Do you want them to receive receipts so they will be able to see their answers? Usually I turn that off. I always restrict it to users of Elko County unless it's something I'm sending out to a bigger audience. I always limit it to one response. And depending on if it's a test or not, if it's not, sometimes I let them edit after submit. And sometimes I have this turned on just in case in the middle of the quiz we need to scroll to the bottom and submit it. And then they can come back and edit and finish later. Google Forms does not save as they go. It only saves once they click that submit box. So that's something to consider. The presentation tab, do you want them to show progress? That's if you have like a ton of different sections within it. You can shuffle the question order. However, remember, it does shuffle all question order. So if you have like first and last name and period, it does get shuffled into the mix. And then you have the quizzes, and this is where you turn your quizzes on. Also, keep in mind, you do have locked mode. We won't want to be using that right now while we're not in the classroom, but once we get back into the classroom, you can turn locked mode on, and then they cannot open up any other tab and Google Answers. So all they can get to is the quiz itself, and they won't be able to go up here and go to different tabs or anything. So that's a pretty cool feature, but leave that off until we're back in the classroom because it won't work unless they're on school devices. Do you want them to know their grade immediately after they submit or after you review it? You can let them see their missed questions, their correct answers, or point values, depending if you want them to share answers or not. Turn those on and off, however you're setting up your quiz. A couple tips, make sure you always title it. And always start with your name questions. Do separate first and last name questions, and always you have to have name questions, because if you just have that email turned on with no names, you're going to sit there forever trying to figure out who turned in what. So, and these ones I always require. I don't require all questions, but those first two I always require. Now, if you noticed, it already assigned it a point. I'll explain why mine did that, but I'll take these down to 0 points. Okay, and then if you're secondary, definitely have a period question, but do not give them a short answer for this. You wouldn't believe how many different ways you can put first period into an answer, and then when you go to shuffle your answers, it becomes a disaster. So you put in your periods for them in a multiple choice style question. It'll save you a headache, I promise. And then click add question. And here we go. Oh, and another thing, make sure you always double check how many points for a period. Wouldn't want any points. So a simple question. So here's your question. And then you have your different answers. So answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. Okay. So for the multiple choice style one, click your answer key and select which answer is correct. And that's as simple as, and then you can up your points or not. And then click done, and it will automatically grade which one you have. If you've done check boxes, so if you've chose check boxes and you go to answer key, you can select more than one answer. So that's the difference between answer key, multiple choice and check boxes. If you have done short answer, when you go to answer key, you can type in the correct answer. So if the correct answer was 5, you might want to type all the different ways they could type in the answer. And then you can mark all the others incorrect, or you can go back and manually check the answers once they're done. If it cannot grade paragraphs yet, it can grade drop downs. So if you have different ones, then you simply just go mark which ones are correct. The next question choice, a multiple grid. So let's say you have your vocabulary word on this side with the definition on this side, and then you have another one here, and etc. Okay, so they're marking it. So it looks like this. So then what you're going to want to do is, okay, vocab was define, 1 was 2, and then you turn off and you give them an answer. So that's the multiple choice grid. And then the checkbox works very similar to the multiple choice grid. You can also require that they do the question. I don't turn this on necessarily when we're in class, because if we do have someone that has to leave, they can submit it and go back and finish it. But now that we're working in an online situation, I would probably turn these on so they don't forget to do one of their questions. So you can preview it. And this is what it looks like. You can also, you can set your preferences over here under your 3 dots. And you can automatically prefer that it collects email addresses. Instead of having to turn on all those little required buttons, you can make the questions required and they'll already be on. And then you can set your default quiz point value. Right now, when you open it up, it'll be 0. So you'll have to give a point for every question. I set it at 1 and then just go to 0 on the name questions in the period. I don't do a date question because it's going to record the date. So if someone does fill this out, you'll see the responses right here. So let me just pretend like I'm filling this out. And then as a student, I could view my score, and I got the 2 questions correct. So that's what I would see from the student's end. And then back on the teachers, I can see my 1 response. It'll break down question by question. I can go through each question. So I can manually grade right here in the questions, or I can go through the individual quizzes and see how they did. You can then create a spreadsheet. And then you'll have your timestamp, the email address, the score, first and last name, period. And then what's nice is once you get all of them in here, you can sort. So you can go here and sort A to Z on last name and then period. And then you have them alphabetized by last name, period. I usually sort first name, then last name, then period. And then they're all alphabetized like my Infinite Campus. Then to upload this into Google Classroom, I would create an assignment. And the quiz assignment will give you a blank Google form, and you'll have to make the quiz right then. So just do a regular assignment, and you'll want to add from Google Drive. That form. And then here you can turn on the locked mode if you're at school, but don't do that right now. But when you get back to school, it's an awesome feature. And then grade importing. And then as they take it, it'll import that grade into your Google Classroom gradebook. You can assign points, due date, all that kind of fun stuff. But that is a very quick tutorial on Google Forms. They are fabulous if you actually start using them. I love Google Forms. I have hundreds of them. So I don't know if I have hundreds, but anyway, keep the questions coming. Thanks. Bye.